Hi there, Tosca Reno here with you. It's my pleasure once again to present a new webinar with Tosca Reno and with CanFit Pro. This webinar is entitled Building the Athletic Physique, and it is all about nutrition to get noticeable results. Thank you for joining us. The purpose of this webinar is to outline how to help you achieve a performance-based physique, and that's for the athletically inclined individual. So we're not talking about your mom or your dad particularly unless they're involved in triathlon at the age of 90, which is possible, but may not be so. Think about your physical body as a blank canvas. I love the idea of being able to shape a physique beyond its skeletal structure, beyond the genetics that were gifted to you. And with the right nutrition, with the right training, you'll be able to craft a desired result. I did this for myself years ago when I first began competing, where I took an overweight 204-pound body and began to compete at the age of 42. Very exciting. And this, I believe that the nutrition plays a greater piece than perhaps all else, although of course training is absolutely critical. So for some of you, the result might be to just be a little bit leaner, a little bit lighter and tighter so that you feel and look better, or that you perform better in whatever particular sport you're in. For others, the goal may be more sharply focused on achieving a lean physique that's capable of performing and participating in sport at a base level or higher level. So what you're wanting is to build endurance, strength, flexibility, and performance. And this webinar will show you how to be able to do this, particularly with nutrition as a tool. Now, I want to point out that any results we're trying to accomplish here are not tailored for an Olympic caliber individual, okay? We're just talking about that client or party who's interested in building and maintaining a healthy, lean, performance-based body. And just as a matter of interest, with the most recent census here in Canada in 2016, there are actually a greater number of those aged 65 and over wishing to remain healthy than there are children aged less than 14. So this is an important learning position for everyone. Okay, so what you're going to learn is the following. You're going to learn how to eat to shape physical results, shape your physical body, change it from what it is to something else. You're going to shape performance-based results. So how can you eat certain foods that will help you improve endurance and strength? Certainly how to maximize burning fat and increasing nutritional intake, which when you're going to put your body to the test of athletic performance, you're always going to want to increase nutritional intake because you don't want to be in a state of less than. You're going to also learn how to maximize muscle building through food, how to build strength, and how to improve cardiovascular endurance. And there are definitely nutrients that apply to all of these. So let's go to the definition of eating clean, because you know that I'm going to drop that in there. This webinar is going to guide you through how to consume clean foods to achieve athletic goals. And as always, eating clean is defined as eating clean, whole, nutrient-dense, well-sourced, properly prepared, unrefined foods. And so the goal of eating in this particular way is ultimately not only to shape your body, an athletically capable body with a brain to go with it, but really to craft a body with healthy body composition. So you can think about exchanging adipose tissue for muscle tissue. And I think that's an exciting outcome of all of this, okay? Now remember too that exercise as defined by the in my opinion, the groundbreaking book by Dr. John Ratty, Spark, he gave us the science behind the necessity for exercise, which is that we really need to be training 5 to 6 days a week and putting ourselves to a maximum heart rate of 65% or greater for 30 minutes on each of those days. Many of you listening to this may be more interested in hour-long sessions and even more endurance, 2-3 hours. Regardless, you're going to learn how to eat to craft that body. So how are we going to eat, and is it possible to eat to build lean muscle? Over the years of working in the wellness and physique industry, I have learned and developed a formula that makes sense to me and many others, and that is how to eat to build lean muscle. And here's the approach of where nutrition fits into your overall task of shaping that body beautiful, body healthy. It's going to be 80% nutrition, 10% training, 10% genetics. You can see nutrition is the lion's share of your work, and so there's got to be a really solid understanding of what you're going to be eating to craft that body. That's not to minimize the importance of training or genetics. Without training, you're never going to be able to shape muscle or craft your heart-lung engine, and genetics are just things we have to deal with because that's what we're born with. But you can see that nutrition does play a great role in the outcome of your physical shape. All right, so here's what we're going to learn. New skills. One new skill is meal preparation. As much as you are going to outline a training regimen for each body part with splits and intervals and frequency and intensity, building, peaking, etc., that's going to be very important, but you're going to have to do the same thing in the kitchen. Many people say that the physique is actually built in the kitchen, so you're going to have to learn some skills which are not hard. If you can boil, bake, grill, you're going to be fine. But you might want to set aside a day, a meal prep day, and virtually anybody who is athletically inclined with the result of greater performance, leaner physique, does pick a day, sometimes one, sometimes two, usually Sunday and Wednesday, where it's meal prep day and you've got your ingredients and you're going to go ahead and bang out a bunch of meals to get you through the week. Why that's important is you never want to be caught off guard not having the right thing to eat, blowing all your efforts by going to the vending machine and grabbing a chocolate bar. When you've committed to shaping this lean physique, in my mind, every meal counts. And let's think also how meal prep day factors into this commitment to the lean athletic physique. Bodybuilders and physique competitors for years, starting even 100 with Charles Atlas 150 years ago, used something called eating clean. And it's a term that comes from those days when bodybuilders and physique competitors went through a series of processes to get ripped. And the process was they ate hardly any fat. They ate mostly chicken, and some greens and some brown rice. I changed the process to incorporate eating more fats and way more greens, because if we're not eating enough fat, we can't actually have a healthy metabolism. So it's good to know as we progress that you're going to be seeing fats, but fats are not going to make you fat. I'm just putting that into context for you. Okay, so now we're going to learn how to eat to build lean muscle. Okay, and it's important not to confuse building lean muscle mass for bodybuilding in the extreme. We're not trying to do that here. The scope of this just would not work in this webinar, because when you're going to Arnold Schwarzenegger type bodies, that's different. So we can build lean muscle mass, you and I, but we don't have to be bulky. We don't have to be the gorilla physiques that you often think of in the gym. You can shape the kind of body that you want, and the beautiful body healthy formula will help you get there. So what is eating clean? What's it all about? And also, again, from those years, 150 years ago or more, when eating clean was used to help physique competitors prepare for stage and for contest, we've taken that philosophy and drilled it down into something that suits modern day athletic preparation better. It's a lifestyle way of eating that involves eating frequently, eating 5 to 6 smaller meals per day. So you're not, just because you're eating more frequently doesn't mean you're eating more volume. It's 5 or 6 smaller meals a day, and you try to go every 2 to 3 hours of your waking hours. You're not getting up in the night to eat, unless you're crazy and you're bulking or for some reason. Each meal contains all the macronutrients. Protein, this is very important, protein, fat, and carbs. It's necessary. You can't function without fat. It's just absolutely important. And then water is a part of it, trying to up our intake to 3 liters a day, more if you're really one of those endurance athletes. We're going to increase mineral intake. You're going to eat whole foods, not refined or processed. Don't hope to find your meals on the shelf of a grocery store in a box or a package. You're just not going to find it there. We're going to avoid refined and processed foods, particularly sugar. And to help you get through this, you're going to need to carry a cooler. You just have to, because you just can't rely on what's out there for your meals to get the body that you want if you're fully committed to this. All right, so a couple of overriding principles that I want to point out, and that is that we are all biologically unique. So when you are in the gym and you're casting your eyes about and you're looking at who's training and what's happening to their bodies, and you're thinking about your body, and it's so tempted to pass judgment on yourself, do not. We are all biologically unique. That means we each process food differently, we metabolize food differently, we bulk and grow differently, we lean differently. We all train differently. No two of us are the same. We can have some general terms, but that doesn't really apply. What you want is to understand that you yourself are unique and your process is specific to you. However, the commonalities that I alluded to are that you are going to follow an eat clean diet, and that's going to serve you in proportions that suit you, and you're going to be using proteins, carbs, and fat to do that along with your training. Okay, another consideration is I just want you to think about what bodybuilding is. Okay, so a bodybuilder is really anybody. It could be you, your mother, your sister, your brother, doesn't matter, but a bodybuilder is a person who strengthens and enlarges specific muscles of their body through strenuous exercise. And that exercise can be anything. It could be archery, swimming, diving, running, weightlifting, golf. It doesn't matter. It's anybody who participates in any sport with the purpose of achieving an end goal. And while you might not be that, the classic bodybuilder in the sense of, say, my dear friend Arnold Schwarzenegger, you are still building functional muscle to achieve a certain result. And I think that's the goal. That's the thing that really excites us all, because maybe, we're not interested in being Arnold, but we are interested in being our own version of our best self, whatever that is to you. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind. What is your goal? What do you want? What do you want to look like? Keep in mind about energy use, because this really, the whole process of building your body is based on consuming energy and burning energy, right? So while you're in training, it doesn't matter what you're doing, the body is burning and using up calories to deliver fuel. It's just how the body works. It has to happen. And that fuel is glucose. Glucose circulates in the blood. It comes from the food that we eat. And we divide those, the fuel into calories. We like to call it that. I don't necessarily say that we have to count calories, but it might help you to know that when we're working at a lower intensity, the body uses 57% fat calories, so at a lower intensity. And when we're working at a high intensity, we use 87% carbs. So that's why high intensity interval training is an amazing way to shape a lean body and to mop up extra glucose out of the blood, particularly good for anybody whose blood sugar dysregulated. I highly encourage it. Okay, so now we're going to go to the kinds of foods that are going to form the backbone of muscle building. And really the king is protein. We know this. Protein means life, the building blocks of life. And it's the critical nutrient whereby when we break down muscle tissue, we need protein to repair the tissue that we've destroyed with the 100 curls we just did or whatever. And each amino acid, because there are 20, are part of the complete component or complement of proteins. Each one is necessary. Some we make ourselves, some we have to get from our diet, but we need them all. For anybody who's a vegetarian bodybuilder or athlete, you're going to have to pay a little more attention to protein combining so you can get a complete ratio of proteins, and you're not going to miss out on any of those. I can go through the 20 amino acids. I won't. The list is here for you to look at. I think it's very important for you to pay attention to and read the list. I would like you to pay attention to the branched chain amino acids. These are critical because there are only a few amino acids that are actually ideal and directed at specifically targeting and building muscle, enlarging muscle. So leucine is one of them, serine, isoleucine. These are amazing. So the branched chain amino acids are something you may want to consider adding to your diet, and you can do that in form of a really good supplement. It would be really hard to eat enough food to get you those branched chain amino acids, though they do exist in food. And you're going to want to make sure that whatever protein supplement you use is well vetted. In other words, look at the label. Is there a pile of sugar in it? Is there calcium? Is there chalk? Is there caffeine? You want to be thorough about that and understand that there are several branched chain amino acids, BCAAs, that you may want to incorporate into your bodybuilding nutrition plan. And you can do that in the form of a shake or a smoothie, preferably after your workout or even during in water. I often put mine in water during my workout. So now we come to carbohydrate, and we often think of carbohydrate as the food that gives us fuel. And we just learned that the body will depend on certain fuels at certain levels of intensity. So it's more fat-based at lower levels of intensity and more carbohydrate or glucose-based at high levels of intensity. So you're going to want to have some carbohydrate. I think it would be pretty disastrous to go into a high-intensity Tabata workout for an hour with not a single carbohydrate in your blood. It might be helpful to nourish yourself properly beforehand. But in general terms, carbohydrates, you need about 2.5 grams per pound of body weight, and you can figure out where that fits for you. Remember too, I think carbohydrates are highly confusing for most people because we have simple and complex carbs. Simple carbs tend to burn up faster in the blood, and complex carbs burn slower. So sometimes you're going to want a fast burning carb. Sometimes before your workout, you're going to want to have, say for example, a half a banana with maybe a little bit of natural nut butter on it, because that's going to be your fuel to get you through the workout. Sometimes you're going to want your slow burning carbs, say, to get you with your protein, et cetera, your meal to get you through the next 2.5, 3 hours. Either way, we need all types of fuel to get the body to its peak. And because there's so much confusion about carbohydrate, I tend to break down carbs into carbs from fruits, carbs from vegetables, carbs from grains, and carbs from dairy. And where some people will say, oh, carbohydrate free, I don't eat carbs. Well, if you eat vegetables, you eat carbs. If you eat fruit, you eat carbs. If you eat dairy, you eat carbs. You just do. I think what you really mean sometimes when people say I don't eat carbs is I don't eat bread. Well, that's fine. That's up to you. But we do need carbohydrate from vegetable because we need to have that complete complement of nutrients that a whole vegetable will deliver you. Remember fiber, probiotics we need, say, from leeks and onions. We need the immune boosting ingredients. We need the energy, the vitamins, the minerals, all the good stuff. So we absolutely need good plant material in the body. And also a small danger when we are building or increasing muscle size as bodybuilders, athletes, is that your blood can become acidic because you are eating a lot of protein, and protein can make the blood acidic. So this is why you need to have plants with protein at all times. And then just to make it a complete family story, you also need fat, but we'll get into that in just a minute. So we also have carbs from fruits and berries. And on a bodybuilding diet, not every fruit is ideal for a bodybuilding diet, okay? And not endless supplies of fruit. You're going to want to have those fruits that have loads and loads of fiber. So pears, apples, citrus. Banana has a lot of fiber, but banana in limited use. And you're going to want to make sure that those are organic as much as possible, because if you're going to be eating the peels or skins of any of these, that is where the toxins lie, is in the skin. And it's very interesting because the apple, in the skin of an apple, they found some new molecules that actually help with fat burning. So that's kind of cool. I really like apples. You might want to add those in. The other good benefit from fruits and berries and so on is that you're increasing your antioxidant value. And so these are important sources of energy and fuel and nutrients to help you shape that bodybuilding physique. But I don't recommend eating fruit all day long. I encourage that you try to use fruit as your sweet factor and get most of that consumed before noon, where you know for sure you're going to be using it up. Put it in your morning smoothie, chop it up onto your morning oatmeal, and do not rely heavily on fruit as your main source of nutrients. Now I'm going to talk about carbs from dairy, because we do have carbohydrate in dairy as well, and I'm going to be talking about cow and plant-based dairy. In general terms, any fermented milk, whether it's plant-based or animal-based, is far better for you than plain straight out of the can or the animal or off the plant. So, and why I say that is because the bacteria that create, or the culture, the grains that create the fermented food, have pre-digested the substrate, whether it's plant-based milk or cow-based milk, and they have actually made more nutrients available to you, so your stomach doesn't have to do all that work. And that's actually really important. So if you can get yourself to include kefir particularly, and plain Greek yogurt, full fat, you're going to get a lot of protein there, but you're going to get a lot of calcium, minerals, a lot of probiotics, and really good value for you there. And probiotics have been found recently to help us recover quicker from workouts. So, kefir is one of those things you might want to really be putting in your post-workout smoothie. I do it all the time. I make my own kefir. You can buy it. Just make sure you buy plain, no sugar added, and full fat. So there's my little rant on fermented dairy. Now I'm going to get into grains, and it's easy for us to say, oh, we shouldn't have any grains at all, and because we want to just go completely carb-free or whatever. But the truth is, you're going to need some grains. It's just you have to have respect for how to prepare. Go back to the definition of eating clean when I say properly prepared. Nowhere is this more true than when we're talking about grains. Grains need to be soaked overnight. We cannot access the nutrients properly from grains, and either from nuts or seeds, unless we soak them overnight. And the reason for that is because the rice kernel or the seed or the nut, but let's talk about grains right now, are basically in a little envelope that contains phytic acid, and that phytic acid interferes with mineral absorption. So we have to soak the grains overnight, remove it, and then go ahead and bake or cook or whatever it is you're going to do with your rice. Note to the cook, when you soak your grains in advance, cooking time is reduced at least by half. So brown rice is often key to a bodybuilding diet. It's slow digesting. It also has some beautiful alpha tocopherol and vitamin E components that are necessary for health. You can use a bread called Ezekiel bread, which we talk about in the Bible as the original sort of sprouted grain bread. It has no gluten in it, but you can also, I love sourdough. You can get sourdough rye. And that too is like a pre-digested flour that's been used to make sourdough. It's highly nutritious. And those breads contain amino acids and vitamins, particularly B vitamins. That's what's in the grains that very many of us miss. And if you find that you're sort of sluggish and dragging, it could be that you're low on B12. You do need to have some grains in your diet. I love wheat germ. I tend to add wheat germ and wheat bran into my mix when I'm doing, say, baked brown rice, or when I'm making oatmeal in the morning. And even just a tablespoon or so will make a big difference. So, and then of course, very traditionally, oatmeal is just such a standard grain that's used for, especially endurance athletes, but all. And it's the high fiber content. It's so loaded with good carbohydrate and fuel. It's excellent for you. I just wanted to remind you, though, that there are so many different types of oatmeal. Get a large flake whole grain oatmeal, or else get the groats and soak them overnight and then cook them. And here is a confusing food, fat, because unfortunately what's happened with media and time over the last since fat has been introduced in the diet as margarine, a great deal of confusion. And I think there has not been a greater misdeed done to mankind than the confusion of fat and telling us that fat is not good for us. In fact, the metabolic system, nor hormones, nor your brain, nor nerves, nor your physical body work unless they have proper fat. And in fact, in some ancient cultures, fat was the primary food from which all else came. So it's really a misnomer and a big mistake to think that fat is going to make you fat. All we need to do is pay attention to the quality and the source. Once again, well sourced. Where's that fat coming from? So I'm going to introduce a couple of fats that I find are absolutely critical. Avocado's number one. Yes, I know it is a fruit, but I put it in the fat category because it's just so beautiful for the heart. And it makes smoothies creamy. It satiates because it has flavor. The fattiness is really delicious on the tongue and in the satiation place in the brain. And the fat in the fat in the avocado also helps to slow down the release of blood glucose. So you want that because you don't want to have these erratic swings in blood sugar levels. And surprisingly, there's a lot of fiber in an avocado. If you ever let an avocado ripen to the point where you probably don't want to eat it, it'll be string. It's very unusual, but there's a lot of fiber. So that's really good because you want to eliminate also on a regular basis, meaning once or more a day. Of course, coconut oil is a beautiful form of fat, and actually most fats are about 9 calories per gram. So if you are counting calories, if you've got a contest or a show you're getting ready for, you might want to use coconut oil because it's only 6 calories per gram. That's kind of interesting. And plus it has a ton of other health benefits. Using nuts and seeds carries a little bit of a cautionary tale, number one, because we have to soak them as I described with the grains, but also because we tend to sort of overdo on them. We put them in our hand, we don't count them, we just sort of munch away. So very good for us to be able to measure them out at first, and whenever possible, use raw, unsalted, whole nuts and seeds. Let's get on to the most academic of them all, water. And it's so odd for me to say that water is still North America's #1 nutritional deficiency. And I say this because although we're walking around drinking tons of water bottles, I can see them all over the room that I'm recording this in, we also tend to be drinking far more dehydrating beverages, so juices, sodas, sports beverages, coffees, teas, drugs, recreational drugs, pharmaceuticals, etc. They dehydrate us. Yet there is nothing that the body needs so much more than water. The other reason why water is slightly diminished in its value is because it doesn't contain the minerals that it used to. So we need to be able to access good clean water and make it more electrolytic by adding a pinch of sea salt and a little bit of apple cider vinegar or lemon juice, and then you get that good electrolytic quality that helps the water stay in the body. Physically active people are going to have to pay attention. You need to actually consume a lot more water than 3 liters a day, but strive for 3 and then judge for yourself what works best. Now, many reasons why we should be drinking 3 liters of water a day. Not the least of which, it promotes performance for you in the gym. It will help you heal your body after you've had a thoroughly trashing workout, which we all enjoy so much. And there are many things. It just makes sense for you to hydrate your body well. The list is complete here. There are perhaps more reasons than 10. But let's look at the correct water intake for men and women. And the entire body functions best on 3 liters. This is recommended by the Institute of Medicine. Men tend to need about 3.7 liters and women 2.7. I shoot for 3. Coffee and tea don't count. So drink up. All right. And that's water. So a lot of people will want to know what a day of eating likes. If you want to increase your athletic ability, athletic capacity, what's a sample eating day? So this was when I was competing for a contest. There was I'm trying to remember now, I think it was Fitness Model. And so this is what a day of eating looks like. It's fairly regimented. And I will say that when you look at this, it seems like there's a lot going on, but the truth is there's a lot of hunger. Because don't forget that matched to this is an equally demanding weight training schedule whereby you're in the gym for an hour lifting and then you're probably doing another 45 minutes of cardio. But this is an extreme way of eating to get ready. So you can judge based on what works for you. Once again, I remind you, we are all biologically unique. What you're working on particularly on that day specifically is going to be different for you than me. I will point out, though, it's quite interesting that you can work, say, what are known as the metabolic catalyst or stimulus muscles, which are the glutes, the abs, and the quads. And when you train those on any given day, you will notice that you will be much, much hungrier because your metabolic rate is going to be increased and kept supercharged for up to 3 hours after the event, after the workout. So when you are hungry, you're going to have to pay attention to that. What's happening is there's a greater fat burning, there's a greater healing going on, but it is kind of fascinating when it happens because when you're really in touch with your body, you know it's happening. So let's have a look at the general eat clean rules. Just a little refresher. Some of you may know them very well. Do wake up in the morning, and when your feet hit the ground, take them right over to where your water source is and get your first liter of water down. Then eat your breakfast. Now think about when you're working out, is breakfast one going to be a pre-workout meal? Is it going to be half a banana with a few nuts? Is it going to be a little bit of oatmeal? Think about how you're going to nourish yourself if it's a pre-workout meal. Then do that. Then go ahead and eat 2.5 or right after your workout, 2.5, 3 hours in the time frame. And you want to now fill yourself with protein because think about it, you've just broken down all these muscle cells in the muscles in your body and you need to heal them. And the healing food is protein, right? So go ahead and put protein in your meal, some fat, some nutrients. You can look at my meal plan if you want to compare what the Eat Clean rules look like against this. Okay, if you're in athletic mode and you're preparing for something very specific, unfortunately, you're going to have to leave, wine, beer, alcohol out, but you can have green tea and water. Really, those are the best. I mean, herbal teas, pretty much all of them are pretty good, but you still want to keep those hydration levels high. At some point, if you're competing for stage, you're going to be turning to distilled water, but that is a much more specific program than this. Try to approach preparing all your proteins by either baking, grilling, boiling, broiling. You don't want to fry them in a deep fat fryer, okay? Just stay away from that. Again, drinking the water, 3 to 4 liters. And you're going to want to change every sugary food that you're now eating to protein. This will help you manage your blood sugar levels. All right, so this is fascinating, and I would love to run through this chart. In fact, anybody who is a personal trainer or who is really interested in sharpening your diet, pay attention to this chart. It is perfect. It's something that you might want to actually somehow reproduce and then carry around for yourself, because this gives you a list of the kinds of nutrients that an athlete might be lacking in. And I think that's highly important because it's interesting. As athletes, we think we've got the world just in the palms of our hands because we feel strong and we feel good and we're working hard and we've got a goal and we're just all fired up. And yet it could be that, our bowels aren't working properly. And this is very common for athletes, that there's poor bowel function. Well, if that goes on and on and on, several months, what challenge are you placing on the bowels and what risks are you facing? Is that going to lead to, some sort of dysfunction or other ailment, polyps, and will that then lead to cancer? So, become comfortable with the signs that your body is showing you, and pay attention that your nutrition is on point. Pay attention to the kinds of the kinds of foods that you're eating in your diet, and make sure to get the full complement of protein, carbohydrate, and fat, as well as water. So that is going to be an interesting one. Have a good review of it. B vitamins, I think that's a critical one for athletes particularly. And here's an interesting fact. This usually happens to those who have just done a big endurance event like the Boston Marathon, and I know lots of people who've done it, competed in New York or Boston, and they're fine. They're just going on fire. They've run their race, they're fine. And then the next week they're sick as a dog. And it's because you have run off of your final reserve. You have prepared, you have gotten your mind into it, you put your body into it, you gave everything, you left everything on the road, and you've got nothing to fight back with when some small bug hits you. So, and that's very common after an endurance event, very common. So you might want to refer to this chart and then see, well, what do I need to put back in my diet? What have I been missing? Maybe I've missed out on the dark leafy greens. I better go have some kale. And then you can replenish yourself and know that the control of your nutrition really is in your hands, because you have this beautiful piece of information here, right here in this webinar, in which to serve yourself. So here's a few recipes that were on my my day of eating, and you may want to find these. I love tuna. Of course, a lot of the athletes eat tuna. And I found that when I put tuna together with chickpeas and make my own, I love dressing just made from hummus. I make my own hummus as well. And it's flavorful, it's nourishing, and I can take this and eat it plain, or I can dollop it on top of a bowl of greens. And then I've got just a beautiful, delicious, crunchy meal that feels like I actually ate something instead of just standing there with a fork and a can of tuna, which is so depressing. So this may be something that you'd like to try for yourself, and not complicated either, no cooking required, just assembly. And, I was talking about how you're so depleted after a contest or a race or an endurance event. This power salad is, to me, one of those salads that can really fill you up. I want to point out the use of red leaf lettuce. And the reason I want to point that out is because we've gotten all crazy about kale, but red leaf lettuce actually has a higher antioxidant value. And when you're breaking down muscle tissue in your body, you want to have antioxidants to mop up the damage. So red leaf lettuce is something you'd like to introduce into your diet. And then bitter greens are always good to help neutralize the blood, take the acidity out of it, and to cleanse, help the liver detoxify. And that kind of bitter stuff is really good for you. So again, make your own dressing. Use lots of fresh herbs and eat this salad. Have it breakfast, lunch, and dinner if you want. Oh, and this is a favorite. I just absolutely love Bircher muesli. So we're taking advantage of the oats, as I pointed out, that are so wonderful for a bodybuilding diet. You've got that long burning fuel with the complex carbohydrate from the oats, but also from the apple. And I like sort of the puddingy texture of it because, when you're working hard at depleting and building your body, sometimes you just want something that just doesn't feel like bodybuilding food. And so this is quite delicious. Using, now there's many kinds of cinnamon. I pointed out Ceylon cinnamon here. This type of cinnamon has a far greater blood glucose management in the blood, and that's important for staving off cravings. So this might be helpful for you to know. And let us see. So now we have this question about intermittent fasting. All right. So there's quite a few schools of thought here, and certainly intermittent fasting is something that's coming up quite a bit. So what I often recommend with eating clean is that we really stop eating after our last meal, which would be whatever meal is your dinner. That is how, if you're truly bodybuilding and competing, most people do it. They don't eat anything after, say, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever your last meal is. And then so you're not eating again until 7 o'clock the next morning. That's more than 12 hours often of going without eating. That's one way to look at intermittent fasting. The main factor about eating 5 to 6 meals per day that I think in the face of the calamity that's facing most of North America right now is that it helps to manage blood sugar levels. Many of us are either overweight, or obese, or are undiagnosed with blood sugar dysregulation. So incidence of diabetes type 2 and other types of blood sugar dysregulation are on the rise, so that now it's nearly 2/3 of the population affected by this. And really the best way to manage that kind of blood sugar dysregulation is by eating those small frequent meals throughout the course of the day. And protein is the answer when you're having that moment of blood sugar dysregulation where you're feeling clammy and you're losing focus and you think you're going to collapse. It's not sugar. Everybody throws sugar at the problem, but it's protein. That's the answer. So for those who are not concerned about blood sugar dysregulation, certainly the idea of fasting intermittently and reducing calories is very powerful today, again, in the face of this advancing tsunami of cancer. The theory is that when we stress the body less with nutrition and overeating and filling the belly, we give the body a break and give the body a proper chance to burn fuel in a different way, not just dependent on glucose, but on fat, so we can get into the fat burning mode. And also gives the body a chance to sort of take a break from all the processing it has to do, because the body is processing constantly. Every time you eat something, it's got to process what you put in it. It has to make decisions about where it goes and the toxins and this and that. So giving your body a break, this is why this is gaining, I think, popularity, the idea of fasting intermittently. So see how that fits in your lifestyle too, because I don't recommend it if you're not capable of doing it. And if your blood sugar dysregulated, you definitely can't do it. But any type of program that you're going to follow, any type of dieting, fasting, even if you're going to embark on a fitness plan to run the next marathon, always do this through the care and governance of a qualified medical practitioner, a naturopath if possible, who has a full understanding of nutrition and who will support all of your decisions. So I just want to close up with a number of final principles that I think are interesting to know as you're on this journey to becoming this new version of you. So know that the body is already on its own supremely intelligent. It was set up with far more complexity than a computer to keep you in wellness, to keep you lean. So it's really what kind of misinformation we've been putting into our bodies or what we've exposed ourselves to that have caused us to go awry. Also know this, muscle tissue is 3 times more voraciously hungry than fat, even at rest. So when you have muscle tissue in the body, your metabolism will be on fire. You'll find that your body will become hot. And that's kind of a really neat fact. Know also that the concentration of glucose or circulating fuel, sugar in the blood, has to remain constant. So the idea of having these crashing sugar levels is something that we need to get away from. And that's why the smaller meals, the protein, the fat, help to keep a steady rate. And that's what's going to help keep you in trim shape and feeling good. The body was also programmed with its own fasting period, where we get about 12 hours of that from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Again, if you want to practice intermittent fasting, do the research, work with a professional. When I say that, I mean like a medical professional, to know if that's suited for you, because you don't know what your underlying conditions are, and I certainly wouldn't want you to exacerbate something unknown to you. Repeated crises of what is thought by the body to be a low blood sugar level, starvation or working out too hard, harm the balance that's already in place in your body. Know that you're messing with some finely tuned stuff in there. So have an awareness, be cautioned of your own physical sense of what you know about your body to be true. And once again, I'm going to stress, each of us is biologically unique. How one processes fuel or builds muscle or runs or fasts or anything has nothing to do with the way your body works. So no comparisons, please. You've got to go on this journey for yourself. So here we go. This is the map, the journey. This is what you're going to embark on if this serves you. You're going to eat the 5 or 6 smaller meals throughout the course of the day, and this is what's going to happen. You're going to deliver sufficient nutrients to keep homeostasis going. Homeostasis is a desired state the body wants to be in, that it strives for that every minute of the day, no matter what you do to it. Those meals are going to deliver nutrients to every working organism and cell within your body. and keep that metabolic rate firing at a proper rate, a pace or a rate designed for you, which we are going to serve. You're going to get nutrients because all the organisms, the brain, the eyes, the kidneys, everything needs nutrients to survive. And we're going to get a steady stream of glucose, which is the fuel for the blood, instead of a crazy swing that will cause issues for us. There's going to be time for the body to rest and prepare during the night because you're not going to be eating. You're going to minimize the crisis response. You're going to keep stress at bay. You're going to serve yourself by nourishing the body to its fullest capacity. And you're also going to be able to manage his or her own nutrition, your nutrition. So you're going to be able to learn how to take in the right nutrients that are going to serve you, that you're going to feel full with that, or that doesn't sit well with you. And you're going to learn the optimal macro and micronutrient balance, as well as how much water it takes to keep you in optimal wellness. For this, I thank you and I wish you the best of success through your journey to achieving a lean and nutritionally well-served body. On behalf of CanFit Pro and Tosca Reno, I thank you.